Mind over matter, overcompensating, overstatements, crookedness related, a soul's churn in return, mental overstimulation, one word, riveting, it tells my pilot, streams that are promised to make seeking less.
Greetings everyone. Welcome back to Mad Poet Podcast. I am your host, Alex Murder, the Mad Poet. Great to be here. Hope everybody's doing well. And without further ado, we have a special guest here today. I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Matt Drago. And welcome to Mad Poet Podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your show today, Alex. This is going to be a blast. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Um, Looking forward to, just discussing your journey, man. It's quite intriguing. I haven't really had a chance to really speak to many people that do what you do, in terms of acting and understanding that sort of matrix that you're in and, the journey that comes with it. I'm sure it's somewhat quite unique to say the least, because
For sure.
this is your situation, you know. I appreciate the journey, man. So, but thank you for giving me some of your time, man.
Of course. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Um, Let me just share something with my audience. This is a piece I have today. Now, just a disclaimer, this is somewhat more of a something I would put in it's like a book piece. So it's not necessarily, sometimes some of them, they're quite palatable in terms of, for a stage, but this one is somewhat a little bit different. The stranger in the mirror, unpredictable, but the feel is good. The crust never aches, perks off an artificial plate. It holds no relate, but the simplifications of potential. Some may ruminate, but never stay. They make hay like beds and threads, but it goes deep to give meds. Aid the attributes of the mind. Thus my spine can unwind, breathe in death. Even if it vacate this earth, I give these life to you that lives in my stead. Just a quote. Yeah, so yeah, that was it. That was all I had for today. Yeah,
That
just a
was
little something
beautiful.
I like to share, for the listeners. But are you familiar with poetry? Do you pay attention to the arts in that sense?
Absolutely. Amanda Gorman is somebody that resonates with me. I mean, she's a poet laureate. And I love the spoken word. No, you're good. So yeah, I love poetry. I mean, I'm definitely not a poet, but I love hearing the spoken word and it's I am actually married to a writer. So she
Oh,
writes scripts. She's a podcast writer. She's writing her first actually her second short film, and we have a production company, so we're actually working on our first feature. That script has already won a couple awards. So you could say, as an actor
yeah,
and as someone that's married to a writer, I am definitely a big fan of the spoken word for sure.
that's amazing. That's amazing. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. So the plight of, the writer and I mean, you kind of bear witness to some of the drawbacks, of the experience that we go through, and sometimes people don't realize how the mind game sometimes it is somewhat of a double-headed sword. Sometimes what you go through as a writer, where you love what you do, but sometimes that creativity can somewhat be your own worst enemy. Do you get me?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we need the spoken word, so keep doing what you're doing.
Try, try, But yeah, I do love what I do, so I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that.
Of course.
So let's speak about your journey. Could you tell us about what your journey has been like as an actor?
Absolutely. I mean, I knew I wanted to act from a very early age. I felt like, it was just something that I wanted to do. It felt like something that I could do that I loved, but also that maybe could impact the world at the same time. I grew up in, humble beginnings, rural Virginia, and mom and dad originally from New York City.
Yeah,
So I got the bug pretty early on. I got to my local theaters, community theater, did a bunch of community theater. My first show, I was 4 years old.
yeah,
Continued on into regional theater, dinner theater, my first paying gigs, right? Serving
yeah,
tables. So very early on, the humility came with the journey for me.
yeah,
And I moved back to New York City, lived with my grandmother in New York City, and just found my people, found my tribe, which is so much a part of what we do is finding people that resonate with us and
yeah,
resonate with our story. So, it just became something that I felt like it was more of a need than a want. I
mm,
also realized, pretty early on, just in kind of the ways that people would react to shows that I was in and parts that I did.
yeah,
Just the instant gratification of people coming up to me and saying what an impact it had made on them, and very, personal stuff. I remember one woman coming up to me when I played a son in Little Patrick in Mame,
mm,
and she said, thank you, Matt. You really taught me I need to make an effort to be closer to my son. So I feel like
yeah,
there's a real impact that telling stories can have. And being in a film right now, like Somewhere in Montana, that is such a poignant story of the time
yeah,
that tells such a dynamic, conflict of what we're dealing with in our society
yeah,
is something I've always dreamed of being a part of, telling stories that are bigger than myself. That has always been the
mm,
dream for me as an actor. Yes, you want to make a living doing it. I always say like the dream has been from the beginning to be a working actor and just to get up every day and say I get to do what I love
yeah,
is something that has always been the thing that has fueled me in my journey. And I'm just so grateful right now with the place that I'm at in my career right now because I'm getting to do what I love and getting to really embrace all of the relationships that have come along with that journey. So now I've got this film coming out somewhere in
yeah.
Montana, and I'm really looking forward to talking with you about that today.
That's amazing. Before we go into the film, you mentioned something about people sharing the impact that you've had on them watching your art, your work. Could you put in words what that means to you, even at this stage of your journey? And also, could you add, is that something you see ever getting old? Appreciate, like, if you do you ever see that feeling or that gratitude ever getting old in terms of being a recipient of that?
Absolutely. I mean, no, the feedback that you get when you're an artist is the ultimate currency. It's the ultimate gift, because it really does fuel you.
Yeah,
When you feel like you've done something as an artist and you get that, reciprocation and
yeah,
people understand what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say. Because again, art is to make people feel. And I always feel
yeah,
like to me, when people are feeling, those positive emotions and they're connected with their heart, not their head, we're
Yeah.
all in a better place collectively together. So art for me and getting that feedback that
Yeah.
I'm doing something that's impacting them, it is the ultimate gift. It defies any type of compensation that I ever could wish to get because it really does feed my soul. It makes me feel like I'm doing something right and that my journey is resonating with people and the work that I'm doing as an actor is resonating with people and that's the gift that I take with me.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of people need to hear that. Um, it's not all just guns and roses, you know. Sometimes you have to appreciate the little things and that are massive, but they seem little, but they actually, and that's in my opinion, that's one of the things that are small, but they're very big, you know?
Absolutely. It picks you up when you're down. I mean, that is essentially like I said, it's what you need to fall back on when
Yeah,
times are hard because again, a lot of the acting journey is forward facing and that you see the interviews like we're doing now, you see the red carpets,
yeah,
you see maybe the awards if you're grateful enough to earn something. But really, most actors get into it for really just the love of the game, the love
definitely.
of, telling and sharing stories. And, that in and of itself is the joy. And so when you get feedback, it really does pick you up in those times that maybe are a little bit more difficult.
That's amazing. Um, I'm curious, and it's I suppose it's somewhat touching on the subject that we're speaking about. How or how have you coped with setbacks over the years? I'm assuming that's evolved to being better with it, but how have you coped with setbacks over the years?
I really just try to embrace the journey, understanding that I only have so much control of that journey.
Mm,
I feel like I'm in the best place for me as Matt right now, within that journey, that I'm just really enjoying all of it. I'm enjoying, just being part of collectively something that's bigger than myself and understanding that it really does take a team. You surround yourself with people that align with you in your journey and your goals as an actor, and
yeah,
it gets a little bit easier. But the ups and downs will always be there, right? So
yeah,
I feel like you have to be uh, available and excited about doing the work that you do, right?
yeah,
Because an audition is an opportunity to be an actor. And I always
yeah,
say, like, if you can enjoy just the art of
yeah,
it and you can enjoy putting yourself on tape and really letting that just kind of be something that you do and enjoy and let go of, and you can embrace the relationships that come with it,
yeah,
then good things come your way. So I feel like it takes time to develop that, and it's easier to do that when you're finding more success in your career. I completely understand that. But I think going back to basics is always a good thing. Picking up a script, reading it, doing the things that you love to do within your process as an actor, building characters,
yeah,
enjoy putting yourself on tape. I'm very grateful right now that I have a great team around me. And I say this all the time, but like your manager, I work with Richard John Martin at Ignite Talent Management,
yeah,
Tanya Kleckner over at HRI Talent. I've got a wonderful publicist, Mia Hansen at Portrait PR. These are my team. These are the people that are advocating for me. That way I can focus on my art and focus on, delivering good auditions for them and putting myself out there like I am today with you, Alex. So you really do find the gift of building the people around you that are going to lift you up and
yeah,
see what you're trying to do and align with your vision. And when you have that type of support around you, you can really just focus on what you need to do as an artist to succeed and just really enjoy it in that process.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, there's a lot there, and I think a lot of people need to hear or listen more to what's going on in the background. You know, I suppose it's somewhat just keeping your audience close to you
For sure.
in specifically. Could you tell us more about the movie that you mentioned, the movie that you've acted in recently?
Absolutely. It's a story of the times. I play Fabian Verdugo. He's a West Coast director. And he is a filmmaker. It's his legacy. It's what he loves to do. And, I'm put in an impossible situation when I essentially need a last location.
Yeah,
And that happens to be John Alexander, played by my friend Graham McTavish's ranch.
yeah,
And we are two people that are not alike, and we would never find each other in each other's worlds, but we
yeah,
need each other. And it's a story of the times, and that it really dives deep into legacy and what that means. My legacy is film. His
yeah.
legacy is his ranch. And both are beautiful legacies, right? And it really does dive into the American legacy, but it also
Mm,
dives into a lot of the issues that we're dealing with as a country, the lack of respect, the lack of love for one another. And the way that Brandon Smith, the writer and director of the film, just composed this film so eloquently is
yeah,
he really gave it a lot of breath. He gave it a lot of respect to the reality that we're not going to agree on everything. That, John and I are two different people. We have two very vastly different energies. And when Graham and I started to work on this story, I
yeah.
think we realized that, it was just this wonderful collaboration of
Mm,
understanding that we are just so uniquely different, and that's okay.
yeah,
And once you get to know people and you start to let them in, you find pretty early on that you don't have to agree with everything to see the person for the person.
yeah,
And you start to let them in a little bit more. And there's a magical thing that happens with that. When you start to let somebody in and you start to really get to know them, it becomes harder and harder, and sometimes impossible to hate them. And I feel like we're in such a unique place in our times, really not just in America, but in many parts of the world, where if you can just start to let the other people in and not just rely on maybe a social media post or anything like that, just to
yeah,
start to understand where they're coming from and a little bit more about their characters, you have the ability to move forward. And I think this is a story of the times that we all need right now, because it shows you that there is a path forward for all of
yeah.
us to succeed together and to find what I consider the highest form of love, and that's mutual respect. So, Somewhere in Montana is a story of the times that does that. It, is very eloquent in that. Graham and I have a 10-page scene, and it's a
Yeah,
conversation starter. We go to the hard points, the religious aspects, the political aspects, the social aspects. And again, it is so wonderful to be a part of something that we feel can resonate with people, and hopefully bring a little bit of introspection and, like I said, a path forward for us all to come together in a very difficult time in our world.
that's interesting. Um, you said something earlier that I guess maybe you. I'm just kind of paraphrasing, but essentially, you're part of something, or your career means something. It's almost like being a part of something that's bigger than you. Have you always held that perspective, or is something that you've sort of matured into, or it's just part of the experience that kind of you've learned that this is what it is for me?
That's a phenomenal question. I definitely think that part of the journey is, you know, aches and pains, and learning how to enjoy things a little bit more for what they are. I think when you're a little bit younger in your career, you maybe look at things a little bit more transactionally, where,
Mm,
maybe the booking or getting the role to impress your agents is more important to you.
Yeah.
I think the stories have always been really important to me. I think I've always wanted to be an actor for what I consider the right reasons, is leaving a couple good stories behind while I'm on this planet.
Yeah.
But I really do feel like now more than ever, I'm in the sweet spot of my career where I'm just really enjoying it more for what it is. And
Mm.
I think the expectation is less. And I think it puts me in a better place. I think it puts me in a better light for the people that I meet. Even when, I started working with the producers and the director of this film, it really became just the curiosity of this project. I had already read the script 3 times before I even put myself on tape for it. And I think
Yeah.
it spoke to just my need to collaborate. I think when you're
Mm.
in the place in your life where you just truly enjoy it,
Yeah.
and you enjoy the art for what it is, then you give yourself less pressure and less expectation on what the outcome would be. Because again, when you put yourself on tape for a role, you're doing your job. You get to be creative that day,
Correct.
and that's a gift, right? And so if you can enjoy that part of it, and not have the expectations beyond that, I think better things come your way, truly, because you're just showing that you are ready for the collaboration. And a lot of times, again, it might be that maybe you're not right for that part, but you make such a good impact on that person, that director or that producer, that
Yeah.
maybe for their next project they'll think of you. So it really does just put you in a really positive light, and I think it makes you more attractive to the
Yeah.
people that you'll be collaborating with. And yeah, I feel like to your question, I feel like I'm in the sweet spot of my career because I'm really just enjoying that right now and
Mm.
enjoying every part of it.
Mind over matter, overcompensating, overstatements, crookedness relating, a soul's churn in return, mental overstimulation, one word, riveting, it terrors my pilot, streams that are promised